Jean-Baptiste Guillaume Joseph Marie Anne Séraphin, Comte de Villèle, April 14, 1773, March 13, 1854, better known simply as Jean-Baptiste de Villèle/Villèle/, was a French statesman. Several-time prime minister, he was a leader of the ultra-royalist faction during the Bourbon Restoration. Youth, he was born in Toulouse, France and brought up to go into the Navy. He joined the Bayonnaise at Brest in July 1788. He served in the West and East Indies. Arrested in the Isle of Bourbon, now Reunion, under the Terror, he was freed by the Thermidorian reaction, July 1794. He acquired some property in the island, and in 1799 he married the daughter of M. Despessins de Richemont, whose estates he had managed. His apprenticeship to politics was served in the Colonial Assembly of Bourbon, where he fought successfully to preserve the colony from the consequences of perpetual interference from the authorities in Paris, and on the other hand to prevent local malcontents from appealing to the English for protection. The arrival of General Deacon, appointed by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1802, restored security to the island, and 5 years later Villèle, who had now accumulated a large fortune, returned to France. He was mayor of this commune, and a member of the Council of the Haute-Garonne under the Empire. The Bourbon Restoration, 1815–1830. At the Bourbon Restoration of 1814 he at once declared for the royalist principles. He was mayor of Toulouse in 1814–15 and deputy for the Haute-Garonne in the ultra-royalist Chambre Introuvable of 1815. Villèle, who before the promulgation of the Charter had written some observations sur le projet de constitution, opposing it as too democratic in character, naturally took his place on the extreme right with the ultra-royalists. In the new chamber of 1816 Villèle's party was in a minority, but his personal authority nevertheless increased. He was looked on by the ministerialists as the least unreasonable of his party, and by the ultras as the safest of their leaders. Under the electoral law of 1817 the Abbé Grégoire, who was popularly supposed to have voted for the death of Louis XVI of France in the Convention, was admitted to the Chamber of Deputies. The Conservative Party gained strength from the alarm raised by this incident and still more from the shock caused by the assassination of the Duc de Berry. The Duc de Richelieu was compelled to admit to the cabinet two of the chiefs of the ultras, Villèle and Corbière. Villèle resigned within a year, but on the fall of Richelieu at the end of 1821 he became the real chief of the new cabinet, in which he was Minister of Finance. Although not himself a courtier, he was backed at court by Sosthène de la Rochefoucauld and Madame du Gala, and in 1822 Louis XVIII gave him the title of Count and made him formally Prime Minister. He immediately proceeded to muzzle opposition by stringent press laws, and the discovery of minor liberal conspiracies afforded an excuse for further repression. Forced against his will into interference in Spain by Matthew de Montmorency and Chateaubriand, he contrived to reap some credit for the monarchy from the successful campaign of 1823. Meanwhile, he had consolidated the royal power by persuading Louis XVIII to swamp the liberal majority in the upper house by the nomination of 27 new peers. He availed himself of the temporary popularity of the monarchy after the Spanish campaign to summon a new Chamber of Deputies. This new and obedient legislature, to which only 19 liberals were returned, made itself into a septennial parliament, thus providing time, it was thought, to restore some part of the ancient regime. Villèle's plans were assisted by the death of Louis XVIII and the accession of his brother, Charles X, a staunch believer in absolute monarchy. Prudent financial administration since 1815 had made possible the conversion of the state bonds from 5 to 3%. It was proposed to utilize the money set free by this operation to indemnify by £1,000,000,000, les milliards des émigrés, the émigrés for the loss of their lands at the Revolution. It was also proposed to restore their former privileges to the religious congregations. Both these propositions were, with some restrictions, secured. Sacrilege was made a crime punishable by death with the 1825 Anti-Sacrilege Act, Loi contre la blasphème, and the ministry were preparing a law to alter the law of equal inheritance, and thus create anew the great estates. These measures roused violent opposition in the country, which a new and stringent press law, nicknamed the Law of Justice and Love, failed to put down. The peers rejected the law of inheritance and the press law. It was found necessary to disband the National Guard, and in November 1827 76 new peers were created, and recourse was had to a general election. The new chamber proved hostile to Villèle, who resigned to make way for the short-lived moderate ministry of Martignac. The new ministry made Villèle's removal to the upper house a condition of taking office, and he took no further part in public affairs. At the time of his death, he had advanced as far as 1816 with his memoirs, which were completed from his correspondence by his family as Memoirs et Correspondance du Comte de Villèle, Paris, 5 vols, 1887–90.